What inspired me to take this trip to Yellowstone is I love nature, and I've always wanted to come up to this part of the country, but I've never had the opportunity.
I never had really thought about coming out this way. I've I like nature, and I what we've seen on the drive out here so far is extremely beautiful, and I'm glad that I came.
Things I would like to see maybe are just the beauty of of the of the surroundings of Yellowstone. I'd like to see some of the animals. I definitely want to see Old Faithful and maybe some other geysers.
It wasn't something that I had planned to do in my lifetime. It was always one of those things that people talk about, and I think, okay, that might be nice, but it's never been anything that I was really that into.
Yellowstone, a thriving ecosystem bustling with all manner of wildlife and flora. For over 150 years, more than 4.5 million tourists have come annually to bear witness to the majesty and the splendor of this natural habitat. But beneath this beautiful exterior lies a dark secret. Trash. Everything from discarded napkins to pens, toothpicks, and even articles of clothing may be found while traversing the many attractions at Yellowstone. While the ratio of litter is certainly low, for now, this could grow into a bigger issue if left unattended.
You can't go to Yellowstone and not see the beauty of the area. I mean, it's just so spectacular. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt when you're walking around pathways and different things that you do notice that there is litter on the ground, and you just think, what are people doing? Why aren't they picking this up?
We're walking along, and I saw a cigarette butt on the ground, and my first thought was, why would anybody do this? I mean, it's such a beautiful, almost pristine place, and then something like that shows up, and you just think, why? I don't understand the need that some people have to just drop their trash anywhere.
When U.S. President Ulysses Grant established the world's first national park all the way back in 1872, it was through a desire to protect the natural environment and study the unique volcanic landscape. Perhaps there is no other place on Earth quite like Yellowstone. For such a precious foundation of life and evolution, it is a wonder why anyone would soil its purity.
Sometimes I think people maybe just do it because, or I don't know that people necessarily do it intentionally.
I see people that throw stuff out their car windows, and I don't understand why they would do that, because to me it's just as easy to carry it till you come to a trash can and then put it in the trash can.
It might be accidental, and so I don't know that it's necessarily intentional. It's just probably just neglect, or not neglect, but just people not just paying attention to what they're doing.
Humanity is certainly not without flaw. Destined upon millennia of history, it is their very nature to slowly covet that which does not belong to them. Fortunately, thanks to the efforts of Yellowstone's park staff, there are ongoing efforts to maintain the park's natural setting. But is it enough?
It's kind of hard to keep people completely policed and stuff like that. So I don't know that it's something that's going to be able to be done effectively long term.
There are signs up that say no littering. There are trash receptacles in certain areas.
When the park first opened, people were throwing soap down the geysers to make them go off more. I mean, and that soap has long term, 100 years later, is still affecting that. So, early on it was just people being ignorant. They didn't know that was happening. But now I think we're at an age where we can't just say, well, I didn't know that was going to affect it.
I think that maybe it's a matter of education. Maybe people are ignorant. They don't know the kind of damage that their little piece of paper or their cigarette butt or whatever they throw on the ground after a time that can add up. So yeah, education is about the only thing I can think of to stop it.
It is a fundamental fact of life that everything on Earth will soon pass away. Humans, for example, are born. They live for a short time, and then they die. Yellowstone is very much a living organism. And just like humans can get sick when they are exposed to toxic influences, so too is Yellowstone affected by the ignorance of man. In the time that Yellowstone has been open to the public, how many tourists have irreparably tarnished its unique setting?
There are cases where people do stupid things or do destructive things, I guess maybe a better word there, that yes, these attractions could eventually stop being a beauty and an attraction to people.
There are still a lot of beautiful sights to be seen, even without the geyser erupting, but it does cut down on the enjoyment of them.
Yellowstone is in a constant ecological flux, where nature itself decides its fate. What certainty is there that the choices of random tourists were not, in fact, the very natural progression of life? Indeed, it is possible that the trash in Yellowstone is little more than a misstep on an ever-expanding road.
The whole aspect of Yellowstone is to let things happen so that they play out naturally. Like the park rangers were saying, they don't go out if there's a animal that's injured or anything like that. It is not their intention to go out and help that animal to recover.
While littering isn't exactly part of nature, it is kind of, sadly, part of the human existence.
We don't really think about, could litter be a part of the evolution of a place? We oftentimes think that it would be destructive to it, but
because the changes that have been wrought by litter over time have happened, and there's not really any way to go back to what they were before that.
It does play a part in the changing evolution of that environment.
It's part of our existence, and so maybe we just kind of have to accept that and let it be what it is, but try to prevent too much of it.
Yellowstone will exist long after us, which is why it is so important to preserve it for future generations. Today, much of the Yellowstone our ancestors knew no longer exists. Maybe that was meant to be. Maybe life just took its course. The fate of this national park is yet uncertain, but one thing is for sure: even the smallest actions can affect the greatest change.
I think I'd like to understand the beauty of the United States. I've seen the Grand Canyon, I've seen the oceans, I've seen different aspects of the United States. I've just never seen this part of the country, so I would like to see if it's as pretty as people say it is.
Every time I would mention, hey, we're going to Yellowstone, they would say things like, oh, you've got to see this, or you've got to see the waterfalls, or you've got to see the geysers or something, and every time they would mention something, I would think, okay, maybe I would like to see that.